Thanks for joining me, Jackie. I'm Sid. I'm the co-founder CEO of GitLab, and I'm here with Jackie. Jackie, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Jackie Cohen. I'm a lecturer at the University of Michigan School of Information, and I've been teaching introductory and variously advanced programming courses for several years, building educational tools and so forth.
Cool. And you have an interest in educational materials and how you do that process, and you had some questions about how we were thinking about that at GitLab. I would say fire away.
Great. So I've been building a lot of tools that allow students to, interact with different programming environments online, and especially from introductory courses,
Cool.
Allow them to interact with programming without worrying about installation. But one thing I'm especially curious about with respect to GitLab is because the GitLab tools offer the full DevOps lifecycle. And I know there's a GitLab education package for institutions to offer to their students. Whether there is anything in mind or possibilities of courses that rely on GitLab, since I see that as a really valuable opportunity for students to learn about the full DevOps lifecycle, since they can do it in just one tool.
Yeah, I would love to say more there. There's a couple of interesting things. I think our web IDE, you can kind of run a client-side application inside the web IDE. So you could offer like a React or a Vue course, and you wouldn't need any other resources than running a GitLab server. You wouldn't need any extra containers or anything else, and people could just use a run-of-the-mill laptop, a Chromebook, or an iPad to do the course. So I think that's interesting to make something there. The other thing you rightfully point out is like that whole DevOps lifecycle. It's quite a thing. Like it's normally you'd need 30 different tools, and you can do it all with GitLab, but it's a lot of different concepts to learn and to master. And it would be great if there's a better and preferably interactive way to get used to that.
I think that sounds really exciting. So I've been following, various tools, educational efforts, and like so many different things that are online for like software development work. Have an educational plan or something of that sort, or something an institution can purchase. And for instance, I use GitLab in a lot of my work because I want to develop things with my team, and I don't want to share solution sets with my students. And I can have all these private repositories and host things if I need to and so forth, which I haven't, at least until very recently, like your blog post suggested, been able to do with GitHub. Like I have a lot more freedom with this. And one of the things that I've been following is some of GitHub's like various educational efforts, like GitHub Classroom and stuff, and tools like that. So I was wondering if GitLab has similar interests, or if like your education priorities are a little different, or in what ways?
Yeah, I think we certainly have that interest. We just haven't assigned anybody to it. But I would love, like our mission is everyone can contribute. So if someone wants to make a start there, we'd be happy to support them.
That's really exciting. I mean, I certainly would love to use things like that. I noticed that you're posted, for example, like a couple of positions about learning and development, and including stuff about like a possible course catalog and leadership learning and development and so forth. And I was wondering to what extent that those learning efforts are for like new employees or internal employees or people moving to different parts of the company, and to what extent they're to reach out into like the wider world and GitLab users.
That's a good question. I think the role is under people operations, and it is internally focused. Although I hope we make the materials broadly available, they will be like how you become a great product manager at GitLab. What's expected out of a director at GitLab? How do you deal with underperformance in your reports? Those kind of subjects would be part of it.
That makes sense. I don't know if I mentioned in my sort of original agenda, so to speak, one of the things that I'm interested in more generally, and one of the reasons I'm interested in learning about GitLab and GitLab education efforts is because I am interested in working on developing these sorts of things, like using tools for education and building some tools into my courses so students can go out into the world and like understand how to use tools. And I know I've read the handbook and all these different ways that people are responsible for their own work and responsibilities in concert with other people, which seems really exciting. In terms of people sort of starting educational efforts or courses or something like that, I know you just mentioned that, you know, maybe someone would jump into that. Like, had there been any efforts like that in the past, or have there been like courses that you're aware of that, or like workshops that you're aware of that use GitLab tools, or do those happen internally?
That's a big question. So there's a couple of people that offered like courses on GitLab. There's people that wrote a book. I think Jeroen van Baarsen wrote the most comprehensive book. It's pretty hard because it's such a broad thing, and because GitLab is evolving really, really fast. Maybe it's a bit dreamy, but I'd love to see something that is part of the product that guides you through it. Then we can maintain it with the product. As we change the product, we also change that course or that introduction, or I'm not sure exactly in what form it should be, and maybe with hints that like guide you towards the next step in GitLab. Because we version, for example, the documentation together with the code, we can make sure every time we change the code, we change the documentation. And I think the course should also be something like that, where you can just say, hey, GitLab, just after you like sign up for an account, take me through the entire product. It says like, hey, well, click the new project button. You have to click that button, and then you have to type something, and you go do everything up to the point that you've used feature flags and you've used the monitoring and everything else.
Yeah, it seems exciting that like you could look at these different features as you go through the product, and that those like course like that or whatever it was would be synced, because I know that's a lot of trouble that programming instructors have with courses, especially if they're at a community college or somewhere big, or like, I mean, even for us at U of M, the tool changes and suddenly the slides are different, and so on. So like that seems like a really valuable.
Yeah, that way you don't have to make a slide, you're just in the thing. So when like someone changes the color of the button, yeah, well, you're in the actual thing. So that'd be super exciting to me.
Yeah, I think that this would be really, really cool. The idea of having something right in a platform goes along, I think, a bunch with what I've been trying to think about for my courses in textbooks, like interactive textbooks help students like be in the world of the programming, but then they have this little interactive box. And then if you're learning about the tool, and then you're in the tool, you can use a feature flag, you can try out GitLab CI, just like right there.
What would be a good way to refer to this feature? I'm thinking like guided or interactive, and like end-to-end or introduction, or what would we call it?
I suppose it seems like there are a bunch of use cases for that kind of feature. Like in one case, there's a tool for learning, like a tool in GitLab for learning the tools that GitLab has to offer and like learning the full life cycle of the product. And it seems like there's also a lot of possibility, like you were mentioning earlier, of like using the product as a way to dive into like what it means to tag and organize work, or what it means to use feature flags, or even like what it means to make a good test suite. And also this is how you use it. So you can combine the ideas of like the theory of building a good test with how to see if your tests are passing. So if it was the same tool that was doing both those things, I don't know, something about like features and their actions, introduction, walkthrough, something perhaps.
Yep. I'll make an issue for that.
Exciting. Yeah, I will. I mean, I'll certainly be excited to hear about continued things. I use GitLab in my day-to-day. Do you have any, I know that, I mean, I was interested in sort of learning more about GitLab's education thoughts and your thoughts on like this space and how GitLab is contributing to it. But do you have any questions for me?
What is, so GitHub has this program, this classroom program. What does that do? I've looked at it a few times, but I couldn't see screenshots or stuff like that.
Yeah, so I have, it's an interesting question to me, particularly because I have colleagues who use it and enjoy their use of it. And I've considered using it several times and I've attempted it for sort of smaller workshops, but I haven't committed to it for any of my courses because what it does is allow you to, it may have other features as well, but what I've used it for in smaller workshops to see how it would go is you can create a repository as an instructor in the classroom as a basis. You can assign a roster, I believe, of a set of students by email or by GitHub username. And a student can just be linked to the repository for an assignment. And the student automatically forks that repository by accepting the assignment. So accepting the assignment does a default fork to a private repository that belongs to that assignment collection or the organization. And then there are some tools such that you can grade all of the forks at a certain date, for example, if you or clone it in certain ways or write certain code. And my struggle with the tool sometimes has been that while I'm really excited about the possibilities for sort of like easy, simplified grading, which is something I'm often looking for in complicated programming courses, I also want students to use whatever version control software or tools they're using in such a way that they will use it when they leave my class. And so I don't want them to be confused about how they get their own repositories and like where it lives in their own account, for example, and getting the sort of the automatic fork is something that concerns me because I know that introductory programmers have a lot of trouble figuring out sometimes where things live. So for example, I taught Git, we haven't looked at remotes yet in my course the other day, and what we were focusing on at this point was some of the simple things you can do locally and why you care that you might have a remote server for collaboration, and then we're going to move towards that. But I think one of the things that the classroom offers is this like ability to put together an assignment and then just have it accepted by a bunch of students and have them collected, so you don't have to worry about the things that often happen when you have a bunch of students using a tool separate from a learning management system. Like, I made a username that's nothing like my school username, and I just expect you to know it because my name isn't anywhere in the project or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
Do you are you interested in contributing either thing to GitLab, either the classroom or the interactive end-to-end tour?
Yes. I think especially like courses of some nature, or that tool that interacts like kind of as a course or a tool you could use is something that I think would be really exciting, and I'd love to think about that more.
Cool. Do you want to? I'll write up the thing so we can explore this. This is interactive DevOps Well, introduction. Interactive course, the entire DevOps lifecycle. And then people will shorten it by saying interactive course, and that's fine.
I see.
The interactive course is highlighted after you sign up for it. It guides you through all functionality as, I don't know, on-screen hints. Do this step automatically. And kind of, you want to see how far you are in the course. So I don't know what you call that, like a progress indicator.
Yeah.
And then the stuff it should do, it should probably be similar to what's in our demo.
Makes sense. Kind of almost recursive. I like it.
Yeah, maybe even a
Oh yeah.
how do you call that, narration, or that it says what's happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be really helpful. Maybe like what we're doing right now is, and then you also have hints for doing it.
Oh,
Cool.
post this one in the YouTube description.
Sounds cool.
Cool. Well, and if I'm going to label it accepting merge requests. So if you wanna help out, you're more than welcome to.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, this is really fascinating. I'm excited to watch and hear more.
Cool. Well, thanks for the call, Jackie.
Thank you, Sid. Hope you have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.